Hmm. Aloha, everyone. Welcome. Today, I'm really excited about the sequence, but more importantly than the sequence is our focus, and that is the diaphragm. And so this is like my favorite muscle in the body, at least right now. I'm sure it will change and evolve, but this is a key core muscle as well as our primary breathing muscle. So we'll learn more about the diaphragm as we go. We do need a lot of props today. 2 blankets will be handy for the end of class. A strap or some even like scarf, something that you can wrap around your rib cage, so any kind of long strappy like thing is perfect. And the blocks are not necessary, but are handy if the floor sometimes feels far away in forward folds. So take your time, get what you need, because it'll be worth it. And then we'll meet on our backs. You can take a quarter turn to your left and recline. And your right arm turn the other way. Yeah, your right arm should be towards me. And then once you've arrived, close the eyes if that feels comfortable. Start to let the body get heavy on the yoga mat. Notice the weight of the head, the rib cage, the low back. I think many of us naturally bent the knees. If you haven't bent the knees, try bending the knees, walking the soles of the feet in and relaxing the knees so they knock in towards one another, and just notice how the back responds to that support. And we'll start with a little bit of breathing. So bring your hands to your belly and let the elbows and arms be soft and relaxed. So it doesn't really matter exactly where the hands land as long as the shoulders and arms are comfortable. And we'll start to notice the gentle rising and falling of the navel without changing it. It's perfect just as it is. And the rising and falling of the navel is a ripple effect that occurs because of this amazing muscle, the diaphragm. So as you inhale, the diaphragm pulls down and contracts and gets really taut, almost like the head of a drum around the bottom of the rib cage. And as that happens, it's what allows the vacuum to be created, sucking in our breath. And as that occurs, the diaphragm pressing downward puts pressure on your organs. And so you're not actually feeling your diaphragm here, but you're feeling the organs being pushed down and out by the diaphragm. As you exhale, the diaphragm relaxes and it creates a dome shape upward into the rib cage, allowing the lungs to shrink down and the air to be expelled from the body. You might notice the belly soften and relax, the organs settle back into place. Just take a few breaths like this and visualize the space at the bottom of the rib cage. The inhale, the diaphragm pulls down and stretches wide like the head of a drum. And then as you exhale, it suctions upward into the lungs. And then slide your hands up to the very bottom of the rib cage, the bottom 2 ribs. And your breath is going to change a little bit as we do this next exercise. And so as you inhale, allow the rib cage to expand as much as is comfortable, and you'll feel the hands go laterally, so to the left and the right. And so that's the action of the diaphragm, that stretching, that downward pushing, tightening action. And then as you exhale, the diaphragm softens, and slow this action down so you can feel that sense of the ribs knitting back together and pulling back to center. Welcome, Roseanne. Welcome, Janice. We're learning about the diaphragm today, but maybe you picked up on that. And you don't want to create any strain, but notice how it does take a little bit of extra focus to feel the rib cage and allow the rib cage to expand laterally. And some people don't get a lot of movement here, and so it'll be interesting if you're one of those people to see how this might change during the course of our class. And we'll take a few more breaths here and start to notice the back body as the ribs expand laterally. Have some awareness of the bottom of the rib cage pressing gently into the yoga mat. The low back isn't necessarily flattening, but sometimes we only breathe into the front of the lungs, and we want to expand the whole lung capacity. Okay, now interlace the hands behind the base of the skull. Take a couple of breaths, just allowing the chest to be expansive yet relaxed. And we'll start with some deep core exercise. And even though that sounds intense, it's actually really gentle and subtle. So less is more here. If you are listening to our playlist today, hit play on the first track and make sure it's set to loop. And then we'll start just by floating the legs. Let the knees come in towards the body a little bit, and then push the feet forward. And do this a couple of times. And notice how when the knees come into the chest, oh, Janice, it looks like you brought a friend. Hi, Janice's friend. As the knees come into the chest, notice how this takes less work. And then as the knees come forward, you might start to feel how the core has to support the spine a little bit more. And then eventually we'll bring the knees right over the hips. Charlotte, try going a little slower. Yeah. And pause with the knees over the hips. And ideally you should feel that little extra bit of work. Bring your awareness to the low back. Take a moment to arch the back away from the floor, and that's actually what we don't want. And so then slowly let the low back contact the floor, and notice how the abdominals gently engage to push the spine down. You don't want it to be intense. It's okay for the lumbar curve to still exist, but we just want to support the front of the spine. And now gently lift the tailbone just a centimeter so that action increases. And then inhale to release. Exhale, let the abdominals press down, gently lengthening through the lumbar vertebra. The tailbone might ever so gently lift. And then inhale to release. Take a couple of these really gentle pelvic tilts, just getting to know the musculature that's on the front of the spine. And you're not tucking your tailbone here, you're not squeezing your glutes. It's really a pushing down from the front of the body that helps the spine lengthen. And the next time you feel that contraction action, pause there. Maintain the effort as you float the knees forward just a little bit, and notice how that increases the work. See if you can keep the low back flat as you tap the left toes down to the earth, and then bring the leg back up. Nice and slow with an exhale, the right toes tap. And go slower than you want to, and explore this a few times. And so as the leg lowers, the low back is going to want to arch, like the exercise we did for one moment where I said that's what you don't want to do. And so notice the core musculature that prevents that from happening. And if you're having trouble preventing that action, keep the foot closer into the body and don't worry about it touching all the way down. If this feels really easy for you, you can play with letting the tapping toe come a little further forward, but don't rush it. Make sure you're breathing. As we work with the diaphragm, the breath is going to be more important than ever because we don't want to be holding the breath as we do these actions. Take one more each side. And then as the foot lowers, let the other foot release, reach the hands towards the heels and gently push into the feet to let the front of the body open. And this should feel really nice after the action that you just did. So just a nice, easy bridge pose, and then melt the spine back down. And then with your next exhale, reach the knees forward and let that gently lift the pelvis up in an effortless bridge pose. And then inhale, feel the lungs expanding as you release one vertebra at a time. You can really feel the back of the lungs. Take a couple more on your own. Doesn't matter how high you lift, just trying to counterpose the deep core work that you did. And the next time the pelvis releases, pause there, windshield wiper the knees a little bit side to side, and see if as you do that, you can keep the sacrum anchored just like we did in the core exercise. The knees won't go as far, but you might feel some of those same core muscles supporting. Yeah, nice, Dana. I see you sort of more controlled there. And maybe you can even take that sense of control all the way up the spine. Beautiful. And then bring the knees to center, float the arms, and roll towards me so you're on your right side facing me. And we'll go into the sequence from last week. For those of you that were there, you can always go ahead and not wait for all the explanation. If you weren't there, I want you to watch me in this next transition. We're going to slowly roll from side to side. Imagine we've done it a couple of times, and then I'll cue that the next time you roll towards me to push into the top hand, coming up right into your Bharadvajasana side bend. So that's where we're going. And let's start with those nice slow rolls. Let the top arm and top leg open at the same time, and that'll pull you over the back body. Try to find as much control as possible. Annapurna has her kids here. I feel like this is a really good kid one. But that's probably kind of complicated to get them to actually do what I'm doing. The next time you roll towards the right, push into the left hand slowly with control, coming up to the Bharadvajasana side bend. And feel free to pause for a moment, breathing into the side body, letting the ribs cage expand. And then paw the hands down, thread the right arm through, opening all the way back up into our roll. You can take a couple of rolls if you like that moment, or if you love the side bend, just take one roll and then come back up. We are doing all of them on the same side, and we'll do the second side later. And it doesn't matter how the breath sinks here, just try to watch the flowing of your breath and the flowing of your body, and notice that wave of momentum and how it carries you up and over, and you don't really need to think about where the body's going. You can just allow the momentum to carry you and release the grip, release the control. The next time you float up into Bharadvajasana, pause there for a moment. Take a couple of breaths into the right side of the body. Feel the right hip push down, and notice if that helps you reach up a little more through the right side of the rib cage. And then push the right palm down, floating to center, and bring the left leg in front. Pause for a moment in Sukhasana. If this isn't comfortable, you can sit however you want. And just notice the right side of the body. And maybe it even feels easier for the breath to come in to the right side and release. And then bring your hands to the inner thighs. We want to be really gentle here, but ever so gently create some resistance with the knees by pushing down, and then lift the knees just a little bit into the hands. Kind of like butterfly pose. Try to feel that sense of the inner thighs engage, and then release. Do this a couple of times. The less is more. The inner thighs actually have a fascial connection into the diaphragm. The adductors travel into the pelvic floor, into the viscera of the organs, and then join up with the diaphragm. So as you gently squeeze here, exhale, feel that lifting in the diaphragm, and notice if there's a sense of connection between the diaphragm lifting and the adductors ever so gently engaging. Imagine that the engagement of the adductors is just as gentle and subtle as the diaphragm lifting. And then just for balance, bring the hands to the outside. Same thing, really gentle, create some resistance, and then push the knees open. You'll feel the outside of the hips engage. Use that engagement to sit a little taller. That connects into the back body, and then release. And then we'll sync that up again with the exhale. So exhaling to squeeze. Squeeze is too strong of a word, but take a couple of those, and then just notice how that creates some support more on the outside of the body, right? The outer legs, the outer hips, the spiral that wraps around the torso. And now we'll go to the other side. So the left forearm lowers. Make your way onto your back. Move anything out of the way so you don't knock stuff over like I was about to do. And we start with our rolling. So gently let the right arm and left leg open. Let that pull you through center to the other side. And then take your time and try to move so slowly that there's actually a pause in the middle. And in that pause, see if you can feel how the legs are connected at the pelvic floor. And because we just learned that the pelvic floor actually connects to the diaphragm, you could say that the legs are connected to the diaphragm. The next time you roll to the left, push into the right hand, come up into your side bend. If you know the way, just keep doing your thing. If this sequence is new to you, pause in the side bend, and then paw the hands down just a little bit so you've got space to thread the left hand underneath the right, and then open back up into your rainbow roll. And then it's up to you. Take your time with the roll. Take as many as you want. And then you can eventually push back up into Bharadvajasana and try to make this as smooth as possible. Let go of any sense of wanting to go fast or wanting to go deep, and rather just enjoy this suspension as we float through space so effortlessly, though the deep core is engaging here. It's amazing. The less work we do, the deeper musculature starts to support us in a more sustainable way. Go figure. The next time you roll up, let's pause and meet in Bharadvajasana, and then left side of the pelvis gets heavy. Let the left side of the rib cage open. Soft shoulder, but just breathe into that left side. And then shift the weight into the left hip so you can cross the right leg in front, and pause for a moment at center, however is most comfortable for the legs. And hopefully now you can feel support on both sides of the body. As long as we're looking at each other, I want to just demonstrate what I was describing with the diaphragm when you're on your back. So as you exhale, the diaphragm sucks up, and as you inhale, it pushes down. And so you can even do this with your hands so that you can visualize what's happening in the body, unless you can already feel it, in which case you can just close the eyes and tune into that action. And then bring the hands gently to the rib cage and feel what we felt on the back. The inhale brings the rib cage wide. And the exhale lets everything soften. And try to release the urge to do too much here, but just feel. And then rock the weight back. Lift the front leg and let the bottom leg slide forward. And do this a few times as gently as possible, as if the bottom leg is just expressing itself. It's just unfolding. It naturally wants to take that action. The next time the left leg is in front, pause there. You might want to have blocks nearby, in which case you can place them over to the right hand side. And then you can see whether you need them or not. I'm going to demo the next transition in case you weren't at class last week. So we'll tick-tock from side to side, getting some momentum. Eventually we'll be going to the right. And as we go to the right, the left foot plants. We carry the momentum to the right and step the right foot back. So one more time, as you spring over to the right, plant the sole of the left foot and step the right foot back. Take your time. Nice. Yes, beautiful. And then we'll all meet facing towards the right with the left foot in front. This is where you might want blocks underneath the hands. That's up to you. Let's drop the back knee. Keep the front foot anchored for a little extra mobility in the ankle, and glue the body onto the thigh. So there's a sense of rounding and squeezing between the torso and the quadricep. With your next exhale, start to kick into the left foot, letting the left leg lengthen and the body drape over the thigh. And then inhale, bend the knee, lengthen the spine. Take a couple of these. Walk the hands inside of the left foot. If they're not already, feel free to walk the foot a little further to the left so you have plenty of room for the pelvis here. Pay attention to the front big toe. Keep the big toe anchored, especially as you extend the leg. The next time the leg extends, ever so gently wag the tail from side to side. If you feel like you can't get a lot of lateral movement here, bend the front knee a little bit more, soften through the spine, and try climbing up on your blocks. You really want to feel nice and spacious. And then gently push down into the back knee and the front foot to roll up to Anjaneyasana. Reach the left hand forward, up and back. So you're twisting into the front leg. There will be a little resistance on the left side of the body. And let's practice that a couple times. So lean forward, reach forward, and then push into the front foot to slowly roll up as you spiral open. Start to get really interested in the sensations in the right thigh and hip. So Janice, I think you should be twisting towards me. I can't see your legs, but it's natural to twist the wrong way because it's harder. It's harder to twist the way I'm asking you. There's no right or wrong. Twist whatever way you want, but great. And so the next time you circle up and open, pause there. Push down into the right knee and notice if you can get a little more space and openness as you open to the left. And then bring left hand to low back and use your next exhale to push down into the knee, reaching long through the whole front of the body. The right arm reaches up. Take a breath here and imagine that you're a rubber band and you're stretching, and we're going to release the rubber band. You might want to watch me here. As we release, we'll naturally get pulled forward. We'll lift the back knee and we'll keep on circling over to the right. So nice, beautiful. I know you're facing away from me as you do that. So just trust that you're doing the right thing, and you are doing the right thing as long as it feels good. So it's okay if you're not doing exactly what I'm doing. We're just taking some big circles counterclockwise. Try to keep even weight in both feet, although the torso and the arms are reaching and shifting. And notice how that changes your experience of your core, your legs, pelvic floor. And then the next time you circle down and to the right, you might want to block here, in which case grab your block, walk it over to the right, place it underneath the left hand. Bring your left knee forward, lower left knee, lower left hip, and then keep opening towards me so we end up cross-legged. Magic, ta-da, you did it. Okay, so we're going to call that transition the big spiral. And later there will be options to avoid the big spiral or to do the big spiral a lot. So we'll talk about it. Hi, Roseanne. Good to see you. Let's pause for a moment at center, and maybe you can even still feel that big spiraling action happening energetically, even though the body's in stillness. Take a moment to just soak that in. And then if you liked the blocks, move them over to your left this time. And I've been so bad at going to track 2. So even though it's asymmetrical, go to track 2. It's a great track. I don't want to forget about it. So we'll go to track 2 for the second side. And we'll start with our side-to-side tick-tocking action. Notice the massage in the hips. And then eventually we're going to be going to the left. So whenever you're ready, you'll spring over to the left, plant the right foot, plant the hands, and let the left foot step back. Nice, Roseanne, you got it. Step the back knee down, option to walk the blocks in, walk the right foot over to the side. You want a lot of space here. Anchor right big toe, and then drape the body over the thigh. Use your exhale to kick into the foot, lengthening the leg, letting the spine drape effortlessly. And then inhale, bend the knee, let the spine reach long. Take your time, move nice and slow. See if you can tune in to the breath here, using the inhale to expand, especially the back of the ribs and the low back. Using the awareness of the exhale, feel the diaphragm lifting, and maybe you can even feel how it's pulling up on the psoas as you round forward. The next time the leg lengthens, nice slow sways with the hips from left to right, and should feel like you have plenty of space to do this. So if it feels tight or limited, try bending the knees more, try shortening the stance, lifting the hands. We want to work with the body, not against it. And then equal weight in both feet. Gently push down into the legs. The spine will round. Push down in the back knee. Let one vertebra stack at a time. Reach the arms up. The right arm keeps going as it circles up and back. Beautiful. And let's take a few of those. Push down into the left knee. And notice how that allows you to circle a little more expansively. Maybe you have some extra awareness of the left psoas, that deep hip and low back muscle. That might also be my favorite muscle. The next time the arm circles, place it to the low back and then push down into the left knee, letting the whole left side open. Breathe into that. We're getting ready for a big spiral. You guys got this, though. So rubber band starts to spring you forward, lift the back knee, and circle this time clockwise. So down to the left and up. Take a few circles and then bring equal weight into both feet. Notice how doing that might slow you down. It might actually prevent you from going as far, but hopefully there's a sense of unity, a lot of support as you do that. Okay, we're getting ready for our big spiral to the left, and so you might want to grab a block the next time you swoop down and place it over to your left. We'll take one more circle, and the next time you go down into the left, plant the right hand, keep on turning, slide the right knee down, Bring the right hip down and open. Yes, it's magic every time. Even if you're like, I'm not in the right place, it's still magic. You're magic. Okay, so those will be optional in the future. If you're like, I have no idea what happened, that's okay. But here we are, sitting. Close the eyes. Let the energy settle. Option to bring hands to the rib cage, or maybe you have enough awareness now of the diaphragm that you can feel that gentle pushing down and lifting that's happening, whether or not you're controlling it, it's doing it. Okay, grab your blocks, place them over to the right. We'll start with that same initial movement, but we'll do our third vinyasa. So start to tick-tock from side to side. Prepare, visualize yourself starting to unfold to the right. And then as you're ready, you'll lean over to the right, step the left foot down, and carry that momentum as the right foot kicks back. You can totally lower the back knee like we did on the first round, or keep the back leg lifted if that feels comfortable. Equal weight in both feet. With hands pushing on the shins or hands free, start to anchor the left heel and slowly kick into the left leg to roll up into a heel to arch stance. Nice, dandy. Let the arms circle up and back, kind of like a backstroke. And then bend the front knee and release back down, but have awareness of the back leg here. Don't worry about touching the ground. Push into the left heel once again, rolling back up. This time, we'll circle the left hand forward, up, and back. Yeah. Bend the right knee a little bit as you circle back. So very similar to what we did on the ground before. And then keep the circle going. Do that one more time. So as the arm reaches up and back, bend the right knee. So you're still twisting the left legs in front. You're twisting into the left leg. Yeah. Do one more. And the next time you circle, left hand comes to the low back. Let the right knee get heavy and reach the right arm up. So just like we did with the knee down, take a breath through the whole right side of the body. And then straighten both legs, turn the feet, and we go right into our circles over to the right. The next time you circle down into the right, turn the feet all the way to the right. Shift the weight into the right foot and bring the hands to the hips. Keep the body and the leg exactly where it is, but just play with lifting the back foot and lowering it a couple of times. Keeping everything else unmoving is going to target the left glutes and actually right glute medius as that leg stabilizes. So this is a really great stabilization and strengthening exercise. The next time the foot lifts, take one smooth breath and then set those toes down, heel stays lifted, high lunge, sweep the arms up, and then give yourself a big hug with the right arm on top. Yeah. Bring the backs of the forearms together. Option to double cross the arms, bringing the palms together for eagle arms. Take one breath into the back of the heart, and let the neck melt from side to side. And if you feel tight here, release the double cross. Just give yourself a hug. We don't want any strain here, but it might feel good, so I like the option. Okay, and here's where you have options. Option one is, we have to do the second side, okay? So release the arms. Option one is to start rolling up and down the leg, just like we did on the first side. Option two, if you love the big spiral, is to drop the left hand, bring the left knee forward, open into cross-legged. Dana, I knew you were going to do it. This one's for you. And then tick-tock to the right, and then to the left, and take it all the way into the circle. The next time you circle, circle over to the right, turning the feet, and we're all in the same place. And so now, if you haven't done any roll-ups and downs, you can do that now. Let the arms circle up and back. And the next time you roll up, lift the back heel. Let the right arm reach up and back. Drop the left knee just a little bit. Move slower, move smoother, especially if you're new to these movements. It doesn't matter if you're doing it exactly like me, as long as the body feels supported and light. The next time the arm circles up and back, bring it to the low back. Lower the left knee just a little bit. Reach the left arm high. Let the whole left side of the body open. Breathe into that. Feel the ribs and expand. Feel the diaphragm dropping as you inhale. And then as you exhale and the diaphragm lifts, drop the left knee a little bit more and see if you can feel how the diaphragm's pulling up on the top of the psoas. It's okay if you're new to that muscle. Don't worry about that cue. And then straighten both legs, big circle over to the left. We'll take a few circles down and to the left. And the next time you circle down and to the left, turn the feet. Hands to hips. We'll take our leg lifts with the right foot. So shift the weight over the left foot, bend the left knee a little bit, keep the weight in the left heel, and then the whole body and the pelvis is unmoving, and just the right leg lifts and lowers. The next time the leg lifts, pause there, anchor the left big toe, make sure the left knee is spiraling open towards the pinky. And then set the right toes down, sweep the arms up, high lunge. Give yourself a hug with the right arm on top. Take a couple of breaths, letting the back of the heart open. And then bring the backs of the hands together or the fronts of the hands. It's up to you. Take a couple of breaths here. Make sure there's no tightness in the neck and the shoulders. You can wiggle the head around a little bit, sway the spine. And if those movements feel limited, I suggest giving yourself a big hug instead of doing the eagle arms. And then spiral the arms open. And so we've got two options here. You can roll up and down the front leg, or you can make a big circle down. You can release the right hand down, bring the right knee in, and open to cross-legged. And then reverse back up. And we meet in our Parsvottanasana. So if you're rolling up, pause there. Bend the back knee. Start to circle the left arm up and back. Nice and slow into the spiral. Remember, it's the challenging way. Yes, great. You got it on this side, Janice. Beautiful. Yes, you do. The next time the arm circles, bring the hand to the low back. Drop the left knee just a little bit and then reach up through the left side of the body. Take a breath there. And now, this is my favorite moment. Scoop the left arm underneath the right into those eagle arms that we just practiced. Turn the feet away from me and now go into those big circles with eagle arms. If that doesn't feel good, of course, release at any time. Make sure there's no tightness. There's no sense of the arms and shoulders lifting up towards the neck and ears, but really staying on the rib cage. Breathing into the rib cage will help you do that. The next time you circle down and to the right, turn the feet, and you can either go into those leg pulses or go right into Virabhadrasana 3. We've been doing sort of non-stop movement, so feel free to pause and hold your Virabhadrasana 3 if the body feels ready for that. Otherwise, you can pulse. Make sure you're breathing, especially if you're holding. And then let's all set the back toes down, push down into the feet, slowly opening. One moment still in eagle arms, as long as that feels Okay. And then swoop the arms open. Let the whole front of the body open. It should feel expansive. Yes! Freedom! And then it's up to you. Just roll down over that front leg or place and if you're doing that, you can come up and down a few times or place the left hand, bring the left knee forward, open into your seat. All right, Roseanne, you're going for it. And we'll take our tick-tocks, and then when you're ready, you'll tick-tock over to the left, returning into your Parsvottanasana. We'll all slowly roll up. Remember to have weight in that back foot. And then let's go right into the arm circle. So the right arm circles up and back. Try bending both knees, dropping a little extra into the left knee as the arm circles. Feel that big X from left knee to right shoulder. The next time the arm circles down, hand to low back. Drop the left knee as you reach up through the whole left side of the body. Breathe. And then swoop the right arm underneath the left. Option to cross into the eagle arms. Turn the feet away from me in a straddle and then circle down to the left and up. And then circle slower. Breathe a little bit more. Let the head and neck follow the spine. Try to keep equal weight in both feet. You don't have to always keep equal weight. This is just part of the experiment we're doing in this class. Notice how that equal weight creates a buoyancy in the pelvis and a little bit more support on the spine. And the next time you circle down into the left, keep on circling. Turn the feet to the left, and now you've got the option to do leg lifts or go right into your Virabhadrasana 3. Make sure you're choosing what the body's craving and not what you think is like better, because better is where your nervous system is more relaxed and you feel happier. Make sure you're breathing. If you are holding it, wiggle around a little bit. Make sure you're not building any tension. And then eventually drop the back foot. We'll take one moment staying bound as we open up in a high lunge. Feel free to walk the left foot over to the left. I like to have a lot of space in my high lunge. And then really glorious moment. Release the cross of the arms. Let your wings swoop wide and feel that freedom not just in the body, but feel your heart center do the same thing. And then release the arms down. Step forward so you're in Tadasana and pause for a moment. We did a lot of spiraling actions. As we come into stillness, notice if there's a sense of the muscular spirals in the body supporting you, the energetic spirals in the body as energy flows through you. And spirals are always ascending. They're going up. So we tighten a little towards center. We reach a little bit more skyward without any tension, just with lightness and support. And grab your strap or scarf or whatever kind of thing you can wrap around your rib cage. Bring it to the bottom two ribs, and then it'll just cross in front of you, and then hold it with opposite hands. And the hands should be nice and relaxed. Wiggle around a little bit so the shoulders are soft. And this is just a really fun way to practice what we've already been doing. Oh, okay. So bring the scarf behind the back. Bottom two ribs, cross it. And then hold it with opposite arms, the elbows in and the hands out. And if your scarf is too short, it's probably fine to just have the hands closer into the body. Just make sure there's no tension here. Okay. So take a moment to paw out the mat. let the feet come nice and wide. Oh, this is so fun. Annapurna, I love that you came up closer for this moment. And then when you find support for the pelvis, pause, anchor the big toes, soften the knees so you can land a little bit more in the heels, just letting the base of the body be really broad, like a pyramid. And then start to fall into the breath. You're not changing it, you're not altering it, but you can just let the awareness sink into the perpetual breath flow. And then start to notice the sensation of the inhales. The rib cage broadens laterally like we practiced on our back. You'll notice how the hands come a little bit closer together. As this part widens, the hands draw together. And then as you exhale, notice that the hands just come a little further apart, right? There's a little extra space as the strap gets taut. And you're not making this happen with the strap. The strap is just a tool to observe. So inhale, feel the rib cage broaden laterally. Notice the hands get a little bit closer together. And then exhale, the ribs knit together and the hands pull away from one another just a little bit. Take a few breaths like this, noticing the sensation in the rib cage and letting the movement of the strap and the hands magnify your awareness of the diaphragm. And then start to shift the weight from foot to foot. Let the feet start to turn out. Just breathe normally. Let the knees start to bend. Doesn't matter how wide you go, but make sure there's no pressure in the front of the knees. We're coming into a horse stance, so keep the weight in the heels. Take a couple of bends in the knees and make sure there's no pressure on the inside of the knees or the front of the knees, or really anywhere in the knees. Try to feel the weight sinking down into the sits bones, down through the hamstrings, calves, into the heels. And then from here, let's take a few of those diaphragmatic breaths. So the inhale, the rib cage opens and the hands go together. The exhale, the rib cage closes and the hands have a little extra space pulling on the strap. You can be in stillness here, or if the body's craving a little bit of rocking, you're welcome to do that so that nothing gets tight in the low back or the hips, the knees, ankles. And then release the strap. Heel toe the feet in just a little bit. Option to grab a block, but not everyone might need that. And let the hips start to lower towards the block or towards... Actually, let's all start on the block, and then you have to choose to release the block. Take a moment to adjust the feet. Again, make sure that the knees feel comfortable here. And then just like we did cross-legged, we'll play with bringing our hands to the inner knees. Squeeze knees and hands together. Take a few breaths and notice how the activation of the inner thighs relates to the psoas, relates to the diaphragm. Maybe you feel just a little extra energy in the diaphragm. And then bring the hands to the outer thighs, same thing. And now this relates more to the outside of the body, so it's not really going to impact the breath, but maybe you notice you can lengthen the spine a little bit more. So we're just pushing knees and hands together on the outside of the knees. Notice a sense of support through the back of the hips. Even the back of the pelvic floor can wake up a little bit extra here. And then two options. You can play with hands alternating and breathing and staying on the block, or if the body's craving it, you can remove the block and you can bring the hands together and let the hips lower a little bit more. And then you can use the elbows to gently squeeze elbows and knees together. But remember, we don't want to create any tension, so it's a very gentle squeezing, and we use it not to open the hips, but rather to lengthen through the spine. And gaze from side to side, making sure the neck feels really light and wiggly like a piece of fettuccine. And then remove the block if you've still got it. Let's all sit our hips all the way down. Beautiful. And then move your props off to the side. Feel free to grab a sip of water. Go ahead 2 tracks to the one inner sanctum. I can't ever get to the 3rd track, even when I really try. One of these days, I'll do it. So we're on the 4th track, the cooling down track. Okay, so blankets. So I've got standard yoga blanket. I know not everyone has that, but you've probably seen them before, so you have a sense of the thickness and the size. I'm going to fold it the long ways in a tri-fold so that it's pretty nice and thick. It's about 3 inches thick, I would say, and it's long enough that it can go from my low back and still support my head. Do the same thing with the second one. And then stack them. You know what? That might be too much. Actually, I apologize. Instead of trifold, just bifold. Just fold it in half. That was looking a little dramatically high. You might... No, I think this is going to be good. Let me demo so that you can see me while you're not reclined. So we're going to do a restorative fish pose. And the most important thing here is that you feel comfortable in the low back. So if the blankets are too high, that might feel intense. So you might need to stagger the blankets a little bit so they're less dramatic at the low back. You can play with that. The other thing is, watch this. So depending on tightness in the front of the body, the chin might lift, which we don't want. That's going to compress the cervical vertebra. If that's happening, just make a little pillow with your top blanket. And actually, even if that's not happening, the pillow is pretty fun. But it's really important to feel length and then this sort of double chin action, which you might not like, but it is good for you to get that nice space through the neck. So take your time. It's worth it. Make sure your phone is nearby because I will tell you to pause your music at some point, and I don't want you to have to reach for it. You might want to put warm layers on depending on if you're in a breezy space. Do whatever necessary so you'll be able to fully relax here. Satyam just dimmed the lights. That was a great call. And then as you're ready, you'll sit in front of your stack of blankets, gently drape the spine down. Feel free to scooch the hips forward away from the blankets. That's going to make it a little gentler on the low back. That's how I prefer it. And then once the spine and head come down, play with that little tucking action with the top blanket to support the occiput. That's the bulbous part at the base of the skull where the neck meets the cranium. And then let's start with the hands on the belly, just like we did on the back at the beginning of our class. Noticing the gentle expansion and contraction of the belly without changing anything. And maybe here you have a sense of this sort of invisible musculature of the diaphragm. We don't see it. It's pretty hard to touch, but we can feel it If we let the awareness sink down into the breath, and then slide the hands up to the bottom two ribs, just like we've done several times now in class. And the breath is going to change a little bit here as you let the lungs expand laterally. And you might notice that it's a little easier to expand the rib cage. You can feel that broadening. And then stay with the exhale, that sense of softening and feeling everything pulling back towards center. Notice a sense of security and safety as you exhale, and the physical body literally almost like hugs itself. And then you can keep the hands on the belly or the ribs for as long as you want if it's useful and enjoyable for you. And you can also pause the music at this point so you're in silence, and let the palms come face up either side of the body. I like my hands away from my body, elbows slightly bent, and a sense of the shoulder blades resting on the bolster. Make sure that you don't feel the gentle arch of the spine at a single place in the back. You want it to feel very even and gradual and easy. Like if you fell asleep here, you could wake up 8 hours later and you'd feel great. You're totally welcome to do that. The legs can stay however you've naturally supported them, because I didn't tell you what to do. You're welcome to play with extending the legs. Make sure if you do that, there's not an overarching in the low back. There's a sense of the tailbone reaching to the space between the heels rather than reaching down towards the floor. You can also bring soles of feet to the mat, nice and wide. Let the knees knock in. That's a little gentler on the low back, so if you're not sure, that's a good default, but there's no right or wrong. You might have your blocks close enough that you could also bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees open, but I would only do this if you support the thighs with blocks, because you don't want any muscular holding or stretching in the hips as you relax here. We'll take a few moments in stillness and in silence. And then for the last few breaths, you have an option. This is going to stretch more in the chest and the pectoralis muscles. If you want to try it, reach your arms to a big T and then bend the elbows coming into cactus arms. It's okay to bring the elbows down a little bit because I'm finding that it's quite intense if my elbows are an exact right angle from my body. So it's okay to be more like a W shape. And then just let the chest soften. You can bring extra awareness into the top part of the breath. We didn't really focus much or at all on that, but you can feel the top of the lungs gently rise. Just make sure the neck muscles aren't participating in that breath. Gently take a few snow angels with the arms. You don't want this to be too intense, so don't worry about them doing a full circle, but let the inside edge of the shoulder blades get a little massage along the bolster as the arms change directions. And I see some people not moving, so if you're loving what you're doing, please just do it and ignore me. Whenever you're ready, it is time for Savasana. So at some point, I recommend rolling off of the blanket, but you can take some extra time in fish pose by all means. And whenever you are ready to transition, the blankets can, one blanket can go underneath the knees. And as long as we have a second blanket, it can be really nice to open it pretty big and place it over the belly, and then place the arms on the blanket if you want to. So we'll rest here for the next 10 minutes. Great, you got it. And before letting go completely, take some time to be with your breath. And then eventually you can let the breath go as well, and just let yourself be as relaxed as possible. We did a lot for a lot of levels of our being, ungripping our doership, increasing awareness of the diaphragm, and all the physical postures that turned on wonderful muscles to support us. And you don't have to remember any of it. But by giving yourself this pause, your nervous system will remember it all. It will take in all the things that helped you move more efficiently, helped you feel supported physically, mentally, energetically. And so now give yourself the opportunity to be in the back seat. You don't have to do anything, and the intelligence of your physical body and your energetic body will absorb everything that you need for you. Take your time slowing down your breath, letting that sensation pull you back into your body. Just be in your skin. Observe your physical form. Observe any sense of balance in the mind. Any energetic spaciousness. Try to take this state of being with you as you start to make movements, eventually finding your way up to a seat. You have plenty of time, so enjoy the conscious pathway between Savasana towards meditation. Take your time finding the most supported way to sit and once you have situated yourself, take a moment to notice the support from the legs and the pelvis. We did a lot to awaken this area of the body, and so notice if that support is there for you in the hardest posture of them all, our meditation seat. Find a single gaze point or close the eyes. And imagine you can see your breath. You can see the lungs and the diaphragm from all the focus you've brought to it over the past 75 minutes. Let yourself be in that heightened awareness. And we'll attach the natural breath mantra, hum, sa, to our natural breath flow. So as the inhale naturally absorbs into the body, repeat the sound hum so effortlessly, just as natural and gentle as the breath. And then each exhale, repeat the syllable sa. And at this point, you can release any focus on the body and diaphragm and be fully absorbed into the experience of the mantra. Let the breath be nice and slow without any tension. And begin to notice the still points between the breath and the pause as the breath changes directions. See if you can find the infinite space that exists in that stillness. And I know when I have felt that, I almost want to hold my breath and stay there. But the magic is that that infinite space is always there. You don't have to stop breathing or living. You can taste it and keep your awareness there as the breath continues. It's almost like you start to experience the canvas that everything is painted on, as well as the paint itself. Be patient with yourself, but also be persistent, coming back to the mantra over and over again, finding stillness in the body and working towards stillness in the mind. And if your meditation feels extra challenging, I recommend slowing down the exhale. And really trying to feel the very bottom of the exhale and let yourself be empty. And then let the inhale be as delicate as possible. As we begin to transition out of meditation, see if you can keep feeling the breath and repeating the mantra as you open the eyes, if you've shut them. It's a little bit like walking in two worlds. You have a lot of awareness inside, but you're able to fully exist in the world around you as well. Let your gaze start to open, so instead of seeing a single point, start to see the edges of the room, the space around you. Notice how expansive it feels to be in that peripheral vision, not zeroing in or grasping and holding, just staying open and spacious. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Namaste. And I invite you to stay in that expanded awareness as you start to put away your yoga stuff and re-enter the rest of your day, you can do both, and it's really fun. Being a yogi is the most fun. So, enjoy. Great to see you. Take